Hello, wildflowers. The wheel of the year turns ever onward, and we find ourselves on the other side of a solstice, stepping gently but purposefully into a new year. Whether the light is returning or fading in your hemisphere, it is a potent time, no doubt, a time that calls for quiet reflection and whispers to the souls of the artists and visionaries, wildlings and wanderers of this world. Some of us approach this time with renewed energy, brightened by hopes for the future and the promise of new, colourful dreams blossoming. And some of us meet the new year with a little disappointment, noticing how those bright dreams so often fade away, abandoned at the fringes of our busy lives, unfinished, unrealised. This year I was determined not to let any of my creative goals be unrealised, and so that meant sitting down with one of those unfinished projects and tuning into my higher self, simply creating, lost in the flow of it all until a solution came to me. I read somewhere that the outward urge to create order in your life is a reflection of the chaos of one's inner world, and I smiled to myself, nodding in silent agreement. Over the years, as I have embraced a more creative life, I have noticed a part of me desperately enforcing order and control, swooping in to tidy and organise at the end of every project and wrap things up in a neat bow before starting something new. It's no wonder, for creativity is a swirling, experimental mess without borders or rules, just like a cottage garden really. And so, with a new year just around the corner, that part of me was gently, or not so gently, nudging me towards completion. Like the responsible adult, she came tapping on my shoulder to say, "Hey little one, it's time to pack up now." Since the very beginnings of this channel, you all know I have been working on my passion project, Wild Faerie Magick, a seasonal activity book filled with notes from my cottage garden, recipes, inspirational quotes and whatnot. In the beginning, not really knowing how it would ever be published, I made a start on it anyway, as I so often do, with hopeful determination and one of my mother's favourite sayings in mind: where there's a will, there's a way. "18 months later, the book is far from finished, and self-publishing has become a fantasy given my humble budget, but my intuition tells me I need to clear the way for something even more magical is coming. So, with the new year just a few days away, I sat myself down to revise the pages I had painted thus far and set to work on a flat plan, plotting out the rest of the book and pondering how it could all come together. As I sketched, I realised that I could complete the book by painting a series of spreads inspired by each of the 8 seasons on the Celtic wheel of the year, finishing up at the solstice a year from today. Something about that felt so right, and I quickly came up with ideas for each one. In truth, it felt divinely guided, and the solution perfectly wrapped up my year in a neat bow, bringing clarity and all the elements together, resolving it in one inspired solution. As if by magic, an idea came to me, and I love it. You see, it just so happens that Mr. Rose, the crafty little wizard he is, knows a thing or two about bookbinding, in addition to carpentry and flower gardening, which all feel freakishly aligned. He's perfect for me, I know. He could take my illustrations and turn them into a beautiful handmade book. This idea felt so special, and I can't tell you how happy I was. It felt as though a weight had been lifted from my creative shoulders, and I was so excited to get started. Perhaps one day Wild Faerie Magick will find her way to a publisher, but for now she's going to stay with me, just for me, in a gorgeous handmade art journal. And you know, this feels so good, aligning with my deep desire for more handmade things, reviving those lost crafts and moving away from the mass-produced. Things made with your own two hands, imbued with the magic of pure creativity and soul, things that are unique, one of a kind, and perfectly imperfect. You all know I long for a slow, simple life and the wistful pastimes of an idealised yesteryear. That cottagecore dream of hand-painted landscapes and scribbled poetry inspired by a spring day of picnicking among the meadow flowers. It may seem fanciful for sure, but in neurological terms, spending time lost in a charming hobby, reading or drawing, especially in nature, is a soothing balm for the nervous system. It signals the brain to relax, assuring it that no danger is present, that you are safe to pursue a quiet interest with no pressing deadline, that saber-toothed tiger of our modern times, and no purpose other than pleasure. As we worked on the book, we lost ourselves here in the flow of creativity and joyful collaboration. There is surely something so soothing and mindful about the craft of bookbinding, and as we crafted together, discussing all the practical aspects of creating my dream artist journal, another brilliant idea materialised. As I set about choosing the perfect whimsical cottagecore fabric for my book cover, along with some matching ribbon and binding thread, I started to feel like this book was too perfect to keep all to myself. With all the special features Mr. Rose had added in to make it an artist's dream, the perfect paper for gouache and watercolour, with lay-flat binding so my paint won't smudge, and just the right size for my illustrations, I wondered, how many other little wildflowers out there would love a book just like this? A beautifully bound book where one could realise their own dream of creating a graphic novel, illustrated recipe book, garden journal, or collection of poetry. Maybe a wildlife sketchbook, a children's story, or herbal spell book. My imagination ran wild, and then, gosh, now I wanted another one. You know, those of the witchy persuasion might call it a book of shadows, but I prefer to call it my book of light, because I've always felt that your unique creative talent, that little bit of magic that only you possess, is your gift of light to the world. Whether you are a talented potter or painter, poet or musician, These are the brilliant colours of your soul. We paint time itself with these colours, leaving it ever more beautiful for our brief passage through it. Well, there I go rambling again, waxing poetic, as you have probably come to expect on this channel. But in summary, we decided to add a limited number of these custom handmade journals to my online store. We really couldn't wait to make more and chose 5 different cover designs inspired by our cottage garden. You'll find a link to my store in the description below if you'd like one. You may even like to join me here on the channel over the course of the year as I paint the remaining pages of Wild Faerie Magick using the episodes as prompts for your own journal entries. Now, doesn't that sound like fun? Yes, the fairies agree. I took a short stroll down to the park to sit beneath the whispering willows and touch up some of the existing illustrations, reflecting on the past year and all of the magic that went into this fairy enchanted project of mine. Do you remember any of these from previous episodes? As I sit writing this outro, I can see butterflies fluttering about the flower garden that my crafty love and I raised from seed, and I'm thinking about the children's book we shared in our kitchen garden episode. You might remember it. It was called What We'll Build. Just like this channel itself and the garden beds I can see overflowing with veggies, these handmade art journals are another way we too found to team up, bringing our creative gifts together and having fun at the same time. And I really hope you felt the love in this episode too and enjoyed your time with me today. Thank you so much for all your comments, likes and subscribes here on YouTube and your support on Patreon. It truly means the world, and I don't think I could keep this up without you. May this new year be nothing but magical for you, bringing you every opportunity to laugh and smile and share your gifts of light with the world. I cannot wait to see what you create.